looking at multiple things, I thought that one of the most common concerns ever since the pandemic, of course, the mental health area is sort of brightened up with a lot of issues and a lot of concerns that are going on. And one of the most common things, and or one of the most impacting factors that we have seen in while we're working with our clients is a concept called psychological inflexibility. It contributes to a lot of stress, anxiety, and relationship issues, as well as long-term depression. And whether we have a medical or a psychological issue or not, whether we need to go to a clinician or not, psychological flexibility is a very important part of living a healthy, vital life, and which is why I've chosen this topic. And if you bear with me for a second, I should be able to share it with you. Okay, brilliant. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, please.
Great. So I'd like to begin the knowledge nugget with a quote by Albert Einstein, who says that the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. And it is when we stop changing, it is when we stop accommodating and stop adjusting, that all hell breaks loose and we start losing touch with life as we know it. One of the most important concepts in psychology, and especially in therapy, and not just in understanding psychology, is the vitality of living life. How do we live our lives? And there is, it's commonly quoted that there is as much living in a moment of pain as it is in a moment of joy, and that is something that human beings find very, very difficult to adjust. And in the process of avoiding the pain, the mind tends to engage in unhealthy practices, unhealthy behaviors, make unhealthy choices that have a long-term impact on us. So today, while I'm going to be talking to you about psychological flexibility, I'd like to begin with this Inflexa hex model, which is essentially why are we psychologically inflexible? What makes us psychologically inflexible? And the reason why we are psychologically inflexible is because there is a rigidity that dominates our reactions, that dominates our actions, and we start to avoid our values. We start to avoid basic engagement that should help us take us through life. And how this happens is that we start to live either in our past or in the feared future. We also move away from we avoid our values. We start getting into problematic arguments. We become persistent, impulsive, and even avoidant, as sometimes in order to avoid certain actions. We also begin to attach to the conceptualized self of ourselves. Now, when I say conceptualized self, we often as human beings have a habit of looking at ourselves as stories, as characters, and we forget that we're not content. We are actually context. We have to live as human beings every day, be in the moment, be present in the moment. And then, of course, there is a diffusion of thoughts. There is a diffusion of negative feelings, negative thoughts, negative thought patterns that entangles our mind and makes us avoid certain experiences. So if I were to define psychological flexibility, it can be defined as being in contact with, within a moment, being present in a moment, being fully aware of our emotions, our sensations, our thoughts, welcoming them, including the undesired ones, the thoughts that we don't want. Nobody wants to feel sad, nobody wants to feel angry, but we can't remove anger and fear and sadness from our lives. We have to deal with it. Building that kind of acceptance and going into a pattern of of a behavior that services us rather than not. And these are some of the important aspects of psychological flexibility. How can we be psychologically flexible? We can be psychologically flexible by existing, engaging, and expanding. By existing in the moment, by existing to to be connected to our own selves in order to understand me as myself, experience my life rather than go through it with rigid concepts. One of the biggest fallacies that the human mind faces is rigidity. If we are rigid with our thoughts, with our feelings about our own self, predominantly due to our ego, which is a state of reality. But the moment that rigidity comes in, we stop existing. We are just living through and passing through life. then it is important to be engaged in our within our own set of values, within what we believe in, and before that have an idea and awareness of what our values are. Very often we confuse our values with our rigidity, with our concepts which we are not willing to let go of or change with time or with experiences, and we get stuck there. We stop engaging with our lives, and we start controlling it, which is the most unhealthy thing to do. And that impacts our actions as well. Actions are supposed to bring meaning to our life, and if we are rigid and not in touch with our values, if we're staying either in the past or worried about the future, our actions start to show that as well. And then I think the most important aspect of this is expansion of our thought processes, expansion and realization and acceptance of the fact that my emotions are going to be all over the place. I am going to have the full range of emotions, full range of feelings that is going to be comfortable, sometimes overwhelming at other times, and learning how to manage these emotions and feelings, and also disengaging with thoughts, taking a step back, allowing our mind. There's something that I always tell my clients, that don't believe everything that your mind says, don't believe everything that you think. It may not always be true. It may be coming from a space of trauma or anxiety or wanting to control, and that is when we stop expanding. So the reason why I chose this topic is because I would like to encourage all of you to exist in the moment, exist with yourself, be in touch with who you are, your values, and most importantly, have an expanded view and thought of your feelings and your emotions. Thank you very much. Let's flex.